The sound of gunfire filled the air, and a bullet grazed the top of Tate Vickers' truck, just above his head. What the fuck? He ducked in the driver's seat as his eyes scanned the area all around him. An older Ford pickup sped toward him, in his lane, and Tate gripped the steering wheel with both hands, ready to hit the ditch if need be. He saw a flash of movement from his left up the narrow blacktop road as an older Jeep Cherokee careened down the hill toward him. The oncoming Ford sped past, followed closely by a squad car, lights on and siren blaring. The Jeep coming down the hill fell in line behind the squad car, and Tate saw the driver reach his arm out the driver's window, a pistol in his hand. Inhaling deeply, he slowed his truck, then spun it around in the road and followed the squad and company. His teammates, who followed behind in their own vehicles, made the same U-turn and began pursuit with him. Another bullet hit the top of his truck, though toward the passenger side. The driver of the Jeep had trained his weapon on Tate, though erratically as his truck rambled along the road. Gripping the steering wheel with both hands, Tate sped up and tapped the Jeep on the driver's side back bumper, then swerved to the left as the Jeep spun around to the right and hit the ditch. He'd loved practicing these pit maneuvers in the military. His teammates, Henry Delaney and Maya Sager, stopped their vehicles behind the Jeep. They'd take care of bringing him into the police station. He now focused on the squad car in front of him, chasing the older Ford truck. The truck turned sharply and sped up another blacktop road into the hills. The squad car in front of him slammed on his brakes, refusing to follow, and Tate had no choice but to swerve around it or explain himself later. Bringing his truck to a stop a few yards ahead of the squad car, he tapped the call icon on his steering wheel and told the automated voice to call the Glen Hollow Police Department. The dispatcher answered on the second ring. "Glen Hollow PD? This is Tate Vickers. I'm with Ghost and Fort Abraham. Just pulled into town amid a police chase involving guns. Please tell the police officer sitting alongside the road I'm a friendly and so are my coworkers." "Hold on, Mr. Vickers." He waited in his truck and watched in his mirror to make sure his teammates were doing the same. He saw the officer in the car behind him talking on his phone and hoped that was dispatch calling. It gave him a moment to settle his nerves and calm his breathing. The operator came back on the phone. "Mr. Vickers, Officer Bennett is aware you are friendly." "Thank you." He stepped from his truck, hands up in the air, until Officer Bennett exited his vehicle and moved toward him. "You can put your hands down, Mr. Vickers." Lowering his hands, he nodded toward his teammates, and they exited their vehicles and walked toward them. He nodded at Officer Bennett. "Thank you. Why didn't you chase those men up the hill?" "We have a treaty with them. We don't go up there. They aren't supposed to come down here." "But they did, and they shot at you." He turned toward his truck. "And me. My truck sustained damage. I'm sorry, Mr. Vickers. Unfortunately, you were in the wrong place at the wrong time." Tate's brows pinched together. This was unreal. "That's a fact? But you're going to just let them get away with that?" "I don't have permission from the city council. It's something they must grant before I can go up there and speak to their president." Tate looked up the hill where he could still hear engines gunning, realization dawning. "So those men are part of the Black Road Resistance?" "Yes, sir." Tate glanced at his teammates. His phone rang, and he looked at the readout to see that it was Maya. "Hey, Maya." "We have that asshole who shot at you." "Okay, hang tight." He pocketed his phone, then looked at Officer Bennett once again. "My teammates have one of the Black Road Resistance men down the road." Officer Bennett blew out a long breath and looked down the road. It curved and was impossible to see them from this location, but he stood for a long time looking down the road.